Hello everybody, welcome to my channel, Ashley's Treasure, and I got a scrapbook layout that I wanted to share with you, and I got inspired by this picture that I found on Pinterest, which I will try to add the description box below where I found it on Pinterest. I was debating between these two pictures. I printed on like really cheap paper a long time ago, but the picture on the left is the original photo, and I ended up deciding to use that, and I actually end up having the original paper that was off of the one that I was inspired off from. It's actually from 7 Dot Studio. It's from the Yuletide collection. It's called Sugar Plum, and I love it. It's got this like, it's white, but on the edges it has that dark black distress look to it, and it's got music notes. And I went to trim up and I was trying to estimate how short to make it, and I really liked it because it's a picture of my son when it was his newborn pictures, and he's laying on this blanket, which makes it look kind of like a cloud kind of. And I want to use this doily and kind of make it look like a moon, because in the photo there was a what do you call them, like a die cut of a moon, and I don't have any die cuts with a moon, and so that's why I wanted to make my own, and I couldn't really find a circle big enough, so I used that ribbon and did it on the top and bottom, and kind of like with a pencil made it, sketched how round I wanted to make it look like a moon somewhat. And at first I was using my big scissors, and I ended up switching to my fussy cutting scissors. And then I have this wood veneer from Craft I've had for a long time, and I wanted to save it for the right scrapbook layout, and I thought it'd be perfect for this one. It was just perfect size. And then I wanted to lay my photo on a paper, but I didn't want it like cardstock paper. I wanted to be something light, and so I had this scrap of tissue paper, and I ended up using that, and I wanted somewhat of a rough edge, so I was tearing it off of, using the ruler to help get that straight line, but still have that tear look to it. And I wanted it very fine, just a little bit showing, not much, so it had to be like just right, because every time I was tearing it, it kept on like not turning it out straight, but finally I got it to work, and I used my ATG gun to tape it on there so it'd be just right. And then I end up trying to distress it, but being tissue paper made it really hard, so I got my distresser that is one of Tim Holtz tools to distress the edges. It was a little hard, but I made it work to give that look that I wanted. And then I had a couple tags that was from this my collection of all the 7 Dot Studios, and I used one of the tags, but I still had like the main part of it left, and I had a little one that I wanted to put on the top. And then I had some trims that I wanted to try using. There's like 3 different kinds I wanted to try. I was debating between the first two, and finally the second one I end up really liking, because it kind of has like this loop shape to it, and I liked it because it made me think of clouds, and I thought that would look really good, and I couldn't make up my mind which side to put in. Eventually I finally decided to do it on the bottom right there, and so I snipped it off, and then I used my Fabri-Tac glue on the very bottom, which makes it really easy to stick down. It sticks really well with that type of glue, and then I really like how that turned out. And then what am I doing next? Oh, I was looking through trying to find some stamps to do in the background, and I took a pencil to mark where I was going to have the moon and the tags and the photo, because I wanted to do some distress stamping around it. So I drew that out first, and then I moved them aside, and then got my ink out, and I just used the very tip of it. This one is from, oh, I think it's from it's from Craft, and I think it's just called Tiny Dots, and I only use the tip of it. I love their stamps. This is one of my favorite products from them. I absolutely love Craft's products, and I think their stamps are my favorite, especially these thin ones, these thin long ones. I think are my favorite for different textures. I use them a lot. And then I just kept on, randomly doing it all the way around, and I kind of did it like out to the right and like up on the top there, and like kind of going downwards where I knew I was going to add more stuff around the photo. Yeah, that's the stamp right there. It has all those tiny dots. Yep, and that's the one it's called is Tiny Dot. I love it. And then I got my 49 Market stamp out, which is has all these stitches. And I'm going to be using this one here and this one. They're very similar. And I used this one already right here when I forgot to hit the video or the record button. And then I'm going to use my Art Child ink again. Or actually I was. And I think it's starting to get dry. So I got my VersaFine ink, jet black VersaFine ink, and use that instead. And I'm going to stamp this all the way around, and I wanted to use both of them, and so I put them on this big block, and instead of taking them on and off constantly, I did one on one side and one on the other, and then I had it at the very edge of my table so that as I was stamping one, the other one would be hanging off of the table so that it wouldn't stamp onto the table because I didn't want stamps all over my table. So it worked, which is kind of hard to see because I didn't realize that I didn't have the camera far enough down to see it all, but it worked really good. And I just kept on switching from one stamp to the other. And there was a couple times I did switch it around to make it a little bit different. And I really like how it turned out because it looks like messy stitching, but it's not. So it's a quick, easy way of doing that and get that look. I love it. And then there's a couple parts because of just stamping it that way. I didn't press hard enough, so I got my fine line, ultra fine Sharpie out and went back over it to make it darker. And I did add some extra little strokes here and there as well to make it more sharp and more noticeable. And then I got my heavy gesso out. I started off with the white, and I think, yep, I forgot to videotape on this one. I just watered it down and splashed it all over the place, and then I wanted black splatters as well, so I got my heavy black gesso and watered it down really good, and did the same thing and just splattered it all around where I knew, like the same spots where I did the tiny stamps. And then I made some of my own dots because I wanted some that was a little bit bigger. And it actually worked really good with the gesso, with the black and the white. So I was really happy with that. And then I went outside and played with my husband's son for a little bit while I let that dry. And then I came back inside and it was dry. So I got I wanted some sort of texture, like chipboard. And I found this one that I had for a long time, and I really like this one because it's kind of got like a geometric design, but it's very, very thin. It was one of like Heidi Swapp's a long time ago, and I still had some left, and so I was drawing with my pencil where exactly I wanted to cut it off because I've been like hoarding it, and I want to make sure that I, don't waste any of it because I wanted it just exactly the way I wanted it. And then I just kept on going back and forth. I kept on drawing where I wanted it and then snipping and then kept on going back and forth till I got it just right. So I wanted some on the top there and then some on the right. And then I cut this like small section off here, which I end up using for on the bottom. It ended up working out perfectly. So I really like the way that turned out. And then I got a piece of paper out so I could start using embossing powder. I used my little dauber I got from Michael's. I'm pretty sure this one's the Recollections brand. If not, it's the Rangers. That's like the exact same. It smells like cinnamon, which I always thought was kind of funny. I don't know why they make it smell like cinnamon, but it does smell good. But I used my dauber to get it nice and wet, and then I used Wow's silver. It's like this glittery silver. I love it. And it turned out great on this. And got my heating tool and embossed. And I love watching it emboss, turning into that glittery silver like that. but it was hard to keep it down because they're so thin that every time um, the heating tool kept blowing it away. And then I had more chipboard from 7 Dot Studio from the Hazy Days. That's one of my favorite collections from them. And I wanted to use all of these little stars. They had a couple in there. So I ended up taking all of them out and using them. And then I thought about this like little like film chipboard that they had. I thought about using that with it as well. And I ended up cutting it in half and using it for on the top here next to that like geometric chipboard that I just embossed, and then some on the bottom and have it line up to make it look longer than it really is. And I love how that turned out. It definitely made a huge difference adding that to it. And then I got more stars. This one's from Miss Sparkles. I got from Joann's, and they had all these little stars, all different shapes, and they're like the outlining of it. I love them. And then I have these wood veneers that I've had for a while too. I can't remember which brand it was. I think it was Studio Calicos. I could be wrong though, but I've had them for a long time and I have used quite a few of them, but I still had a lot left, luckily. And I was just trying to get a variety of stars, like every stars I had. And then I have these teeny tiny ones, which I love. I use them a lot. And there's actually like 2 or 3 different sizes of them. And so I was just scattering them everywhere, trying to figure out how many stars I needed. Oh, and then I got this from Hobby Lobby, their spare parts. There was this little metal, they're like kind of like paper clips, and it had the number 9 on it, and I really wanted to use that, and it worked perfect right there on that tag because it, you know, with that black stripe there, it worked perfect. And the number 9 is because that's how many days old my son was. He was 9 days old at the time when that picture was taken, so I really wanted to have something to remember how old he was on that, and so that just worked out perfectly. And then I found these little tiny wood veneer clouds, which were like the perfect size, and I thought that was really cute to go with this whole theme that I had going on. And then I forgot to hit the recording button again, and I used this gold foil, and then I was going to use this black embossing ink to use on the film right there, but the foil I used on the big stars that I got from Miss Sparkles, and there was what, 3 of them, and I used my double sided tape, my ATG gun, and I just put that all over the stars and then kept rubbing the foil on, and then used a paintbrush to rub off the excess. And then it was a little challenging at first, but and a little messy, but it was definitely worth it. I really like how that turned out. And then I just embossed the strips there, and of course put it back in the jar so I wouldn't spill it everywhere, because that's something I would do, and emboss them. And then there was one spot that didn't get embossed, so I just took that ultra fine Sharpie and just kind of like drew on it to make it match, and tried to line everything up to see how it looked, and I really liked the way it was going. And then I got my super fine white embossing powder from the Rangers, and I used that on all of the clouds, and I think I did like 3 layers on all of them. Like I just kept on embossing, and while it was still hot I hurried up and did like a 2nd layer and heated it, and then hurry up and did it for a 3rd time to make it, because of being clouds, I wanted it kind of thick to give it more dimensional look to it than just one thin coat. And then this is another one of Ranger's super fine embossing powder. This one's the silver one, and I love that. I used it on all those type of shaped stars, because each star I made them a different color. And then I had the same brand. This one is silver pearl, and I used it on all of the those stars that I got from the Hazy Days from 7 Dot Studio. I used it on those, and then later on, I found uh, the 3 hearts and decided to use it on those as well. And then I had embossing powder like everywhere, all over my table. So I used, um, you know, those Swifters. Well, that's the cloth stuff that you put on them, and it actually picks up the embossing powder really well. And then I had all those tiny little stars, and I wanted to do them black, but I was so sick of embossing, and there was just embossing powder everywhere. So I just got my heavy black gesso and just dabbed it, and it dried so fast. It was so easy and less messy. Granted, it was a little messy just on my fingers, but it was so much easier, and I just did it with all those tiny little stars. And then those silver ones, they matched the geometric chipboard too much. So I tried rubbing some of the black gesso on it, which I end up liking because it made it more of a charcoal gray and it made them stand out compared to the silver chipboard already. And this is when I finally decided to use that silver pearl on the hearts as well. I ended up using 3 of them, one on the photo, and then that one, I was thinking about doing it on the cloud, but eventually I end up not. I end up moving that one down, and then one on the right side. And then this is when I finally started gluing things down, and I wanted to put some foam on it to make it some dimension, but I forgot to do a layer of foam on the photo first and then put it on the tags, which is fine. I still like the way it turned out. I think one layer was good enough. But I wanted to make sure it was on all over it really good to make sure it wouldn't cave in. And then I had some cheesecloth and I wanted to use that to tie on the tags because every time I have a tag, I need to have something tied onto it. I can't just leave a tag without something. And so I really like the texture of the cheesecloth. It always gives that like warm, cozy feeling kind of. But like in a distressed way. And this one I double knotted and then cut off the excess. And then I was thinking about adding some like behind the clouds because it kind of gave it even more softer, warmer feeling. And then this was day 2. I was looking everywhere for this paint. It literally took me like 2 days trying to find it. I went through everything trying to find it, and I finally found it because I wanted to go over the hearts and all the other stars that I painted with the silver pearl embossing powder because I think it was because I didn't put gesso on it first. It still gave that color of the wood, and it just didn't go well with everything else because everything else was black, white, and like silver, and it had that light tan brown color to it, and it stood out and it just drove me nuts. So I used this acrylic, it's like silver pearl, and it was more white pearl, and it helped a lot. And at first it wasn't working, and so I had to put white gesso on it and then did a second coat of the paint on top, and it worked well. And then I decided to take that cheesecloth off the tags, and I was going to use this tool that I just recently got from Hobby Lobby in my last haul. And I did a thin strip, and then I like folded it in half twice because like as you pull it, it kind of like stretches it out. And then stuck it in there, and I had to use my tweezers because it was really hard to get in there because I already had everything like glued down. And I tied those down. And then trimmed off the excess, and then I still had a few more spots that I didn't have glued down yet, so I finished gluing all the little wood veneers down, all the stars and the clouds and everything. And I did get Miss Sparkle's the little adhesive squares because one of the stars I needed some dimension because it was going over that little black like photo strip there. So I needed some dimension underneath it so it wouldn't be crooked. And I still had this piece to glue down, so all the little sections I put little dots here and there to help it stick down really good with my art glitter glue. I love that glue. It works so well. And I did the same on all those little stars with the fine thin lines. And I was trying to put, I realized that I didn't put the cheesecloth behind all the stars or all the clouds, and so I had to take that off, but one of them I already had glued down with the cheesecloth behind it, so that one has one, but the other four do not. And then I was trying to decide which color to do the baby boy in between. I didn't know if I want to do black or that same glittery silver embossing powder, and I decided on trying this, and I really like that how that turned out. And I think I ended up doing 2 coats of it, yeah, and it was already dry, so I had to get my dauber out again, and I just like faced it down and just got it stick or the powder on it that way. And I had powder all over again, so I used that strip, and look how cute it is. I love it. And I think it still popped out enough. And then this star needed some dimension too, so I used some foam and used a very, very thin line of it and glued them on with the art glitter glue, and it worked actually quite well. I was surprised because of being that thin. I thought it'd be too wobbly and it would just fall or something, but it actually worked out. Because that the baby boy stands on that. What's one of the parts that it sticks on was the 2 stars and the photo. So I had to do it on this star as well, which was really hard because of how thin the lines were on that star, but it worked. Because that foam was like almost clear, so it wasn't too noticeable. So I didn't want to use a colored one because then that would stand out. So the baby boy stands on those 2 stars in the photo. I started gluing that down. Just did little dots so I knew it would stick well with the art glitter glue. And just put some pressure on it to make sure it would dry well. And of course my last star underneath there. And my last cloud. I love those clouds. And then I forgot, I still didn't cut off that border strip, so I wanted to hurry up and cut that off before I put anything else on there. And there's the sugar plum. I couldn't remember if I said that, but yeah, it's the sugar plum from the Yuletide collection from 7 Dot Studio. I love their products. And they are originally from Poland. And then I wanted to use one of these Tim Holtz little glass veils, and I could not find them anywhere. But I wanted to fill them with this glass pearls from Prima Marketing, and I ended up putting quite a bit in there. I love those little glass veils though. I use them all the time. That's my favorite shaped one. I used a little bit of the black glass glitter as well because I had a lot of black and white, and so I wanted just a little bit of black in there. And then, or it was pitch black. And then I also had some micro beads. This was the silver, and it is also from Prima Marketing. And that one I put more in. I put a lot of the white glass glitter, and then the silver pearls. And then I also had some of the micro beads in black as well, so I added a little bit of that in there, and I just kept on shaking it to make sure all 4 of them mixed really well. Then put the little cork back in. See, there's the black ones, and look how cute that is with all 4 of them together. I love that. And then I cut another strip of the tulle because I wanted to use that to tie around the bottle because it just needed something there. And I didn't want to get a whole different type of string because then it would stand out. and I did like 2 loops around it, and then did like a double knot. It was a little challenging at times. It kept on slipping out of my hand. And then cut off the excess because I didn't want it too long. And then I tried to kind of like stretch it and kind of like distress it in a way and make it look just right. And like I just kept on like pulling and twirling and whatnot. And then I put another one of those foam squares behind it because it was going to be on an angle because it was going to lean against that star that already has that foam dimension on it. So I kind of used on the upward part to fill in that gap in between there. And then this very fine extra strip, because I already used that sticker, but the outline of it, I wanted some, and it was from the Hazy Days. It's the sticker embellishment from 7 Dot Studio. I wanted to use that underneath the photo because I have all those black and white stripes above it but not below it, and there's just that fine line of the tag with the music notes on it, and it was kind of just driving me nuts. So I found that extra scrap, and so I used that, which was perfect. I just needed that tad little bit, so I always love using scraps like that. And I just trimmed it to the right length, and it was kind of hard because of how fine and delicate it was, but it worked. And then I also used, this was from a different collection. I can't remember what this one was called. It was something Dreamscape, I think it was. And there's all these little cute sayings on here. I ended up picking 3 different ones. I think it was like dream all the dreams. What was the other one saying? I can't remember. I know it shows in the pictures though. Something about clouds. Like each one of them had to do with clouds and dreaming, so I thought those went perfect with this layout. And that one, the Dream All the Dreams, I wanted that one below the photo, but I didn't want it to cover those stripes that I just put underneath there, so I was like hesitant, like, you know, where exactly, but I knew I wanted it around there. I think this one said amongst the clouds. I think that one, yeah, I did it flat on one side and then I did kind of like that fishtail cut on the left because it was like coming off of that chipboard. And I was going to use that right there and like kind of on top of that star. I love the way that looked. And then I ended up moving this one down that says Sweet Dreams. At first I was going to use it on the top, but I ended up moving that one down because I ended up having that other one that says Amongst Clouds are up there. So I didn't want 2 up there. And then finally I did it just below that thin strip of the stripes underneath there. And then I wanted to use some of those gems. I thought that was like a perfect look. I got those from Michael's when they had those crazy clearances, and I'm pretty sure it only cost like I got it on clearance for $2, $2 or $3, and I love it because they have multiple sizes. So I used their biggest size, and I glued a couple of them down, and then I used like their medium size. And then I also used their tiniest ones. I love those teeny tiny ones. But those went perfect with the layout that I was doing. And just scattered them all over the place. And then I was thinking about using one on the cloud. And I was thinking about covering that little bump, but I liked it more on the left side. And then I finally remembered I got this like pencil which is specifically made for doing this to help pick up those little gems because some of them are so hard, and like it worked great. But finally, like I was trying to pick up another one and I'm like, why is it not picking up? Because there was already one underneath there. So I pressed too hard, which kind of like broke the pencil a little bit. But that's why I had to take that little needle and like pick it out of it because I pressed too hard. And had to like scrape off the excess. There it is. It's the Crystal FX Positioner, and it actually worked great. I am so glad I got that. And then I got the clear glass glitter out again, and I wanted to do it all over the place. And I'm trying to remember, it's the soft, heavy gel, I think it is, from Prima Marketing. It works really good. It sticks really well, and when it dries, it goes matte, so you can't see it and clear. And so I use that to stick all of the glass glitter, the clear glass glitter, all over the place. I love the texture it gives. So yeah, I was just dabbing a paintbrush into the glue and then into the glass and just spreading it all over the place. I did it inside and outside of the stars and the film and like coming out of the clouds. I love the texture it gives though. And then I wanted to use those micro beads, the black ones, to add a little bit more black. And I love that because of how tiny they were. And I kind of ended up going crazy because I really liked the way they turned out. And just did the same thing as I did with the other ones. But those beads were so tiny, so it was kind of hard to mix it in with the glue. So finally I found that little piece of clear packaging that was actually into those gems. It was covering the teeny tiny ones, and so I used that to put some of the glue in there and mix it up. And then I thought I was done, but something was bugging me. It just didn't look complete to me. So the next day I got that tool out and I distressed all the edges, and I think that looked so much better because I think the straight lines, with everything else looking kind of distressed and then having the lines straight, it bugged me, so I had to distress it. And then with my hand, I tore like little sections out to make it look even more distressed, and just like torn little parts, but I didn't want to go past where that stamped stitching look is. And there's a couple times I had to get my scissors out and distress it even more, the parts that I cut out. I wanted to make it look a little rough. And I did use the distressing tool a couple times. And then I found this ribbon. It's from Joann's, I think, or Hobby Lobby, I think it was. Yeah, Hobby Lobby a long time ago, because I wanted to use lace and to cover up all those little holes that I torn out, so it has something behind it, and the lace looked great. I used the tacky glue and just glued around the holes. I had a hard time first getting it out, but yeah, that stuff works great for gluing down lace. And I just laid it down over the little sections of lace that I wanted just right. I love it. It looked so great. And I ended up cutting off just the right amount too. I can't believe that, because I ended up using every little piece that I ended up cutting off and filled in every little sections that I tore. It's amazing. Little things like that make such a difference, and I love the way it turned out. It gave it more of that distressed but like warm and elegant and kind of elegant and like cozy feeling. But then I think I was finally done. But look how that looks with the lace. I love it. But I finally think it's done, and just giving you a close-up what it all looks like. I love it. Oh, and I did end up taking the tool off and switching back to the cheesecloth because the tool was just too light. It was like see-through, and so it needed white, so I went back to the cheesecloth, and I'm glad I switched back. And I also did that on the little bottle as well. I think that looked a lot better. And there's that number 9. I love those. It was just so cute. You can see all the gems. You can see the white glass that I glued on with the little black beads. I think it turned out so great. I love it. And I've never done a scrapbook layout with just black and white and silver. And this, I went outside to get some light and took some close-up pictures so you could see it. I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did. If so, give it a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Thank you so much. Bye.